Konnichiwa. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Argo on Air. This is number 14, and we took a week off last week. So if you were wondering what happened last week, the best way to find out, of course, is go to the Facebook page, go to the Twitter, and I always will leave a message if I'm not going to be able to make it. Last week just didn't work out. We got a few people in the house already in the comments section. Konnichiwa. Hello, everyone. I gotta mute my thing. Hold on. Argo on Air. This is number 14. There we go. All right. So I will try to keep track of the comments as we go along. I have a topic planned out. I got some notes and everything, and I'm trying to be Hiko-esque. I don't have a flipboard or whatever the hell he uses over there. I still don't quite know how to do like an inset picture and do all that stuff. I have to figure that out someday. But you know, I watch a few of these, and Hiko does a good job when he's by himself. I'm increasingly thinking if I'm going to keep doing this, I need to find a partner. I need to find somebody that I can do it with, like Molly does with Dave for his, and you know, Oyaji. Obviously, Victor and Hiko work really well together. This is my lightsaber pen. I don't know if I can here if I demonstrate it here. It was a gift from someone. If you press down, see it lights up. Okay. So I might think about that. I don't know who that person would be. I'm not asking for submissions or anything. I'm just saying we'll see. So how are you doing? It is the 16th of August. And it's about the middle of the month already, and about 2 weeks of my summer vacation have gone by, and I asked James earlier, based on a comment that he left, if he had been maybe having a little bit, you know, of the good stuff before coming into the chat room, and he says no, he's a teetotaler nowadays. He doesn't imbibe anymore, so. It's just his creative brain. Let's put it down to that. We got a few people in the house. Mike's in here. Kron, Sean, Akush. Hello, Akush. Hurrah, hooray. So thank you guys for coming by and being here at the beginning. Of course, this week was a big week in Japan. If you live here, you know about it already. A lot of talk about the war, World War II, the 70th anniversary of the end of the war. Which happened way back, of course, in 1945. Victor and Hiko, well, like at midnight last night, did kind of a whole hour about it on Oyaji, and so I'm not really going to talk that much about that today. It's you know, a significant thing for Japan to acknowledge what it did in the war and try to move forward, and hopefully you know, China and South Korea specifically can also start to look past what happened 70 years ago and look toward having a you know, fruitful and cooperative future together. Because Japan certainly needs that. You know, Japan is declining in population, and you know, they're not the number. I think they were the number 2 economy in the world for a while now. I think they're number 3 or number 4. You know, China and America are definitely ahead. I think India might surpass Japan soon. So, you know, Japan has to do some things to rectify and move forward. And you know, they're trying their best. They're obviously hosting the Olympics in 2020. They want to show off Japan to the world. You know, we need more tourists to come to Japan. I know a lot of people are intimidated by Japan, I think. They just think it's so foreign and so different, and the language and culture is so strange. But they're really not. You know, people are people, and so much of Japan is user-friendly for foreigners visiting if you go to the major cities. If you stick to Tokyo and Osaka and Hiroshima and places like that. And yeah, Sean's pointing out that Netflix is finally coming. I went to the mall where I go see movies in Izumo in Shimanekan, a very rural place, and they now have a Starbucks in the mall. So it's such a different place than the one I moved to 10 years ago, 11 years ago now, 2004. Hey, Kevin's in the house. What's up, Kevin? It's amazing how much Japan in ruralness, rural Japan has changed in the past 10 years. Um, so I think that that bodes well for the ongoing prosperity of Japan, and we'll see. You know, um, people, mm, you know, the young people, especially the people I teach, my college students. I'm hoping that they, some of them are very inward looking. I think they don't really care about the rest of the world. They care about Japan. They're very fiercely patriotic people. Um, they love it when somebody in Japan does well outside of Japan. Like right now, all over the TV is this tennis tournament called the Rogers Invitation. I've never even heard of it, but a Japanese tennis player who's obviously doing very well in tennis right now, his name is Kei Nishikori, is doing very well. He just beat Rafael Nadal. And so they're showing it like every day, like twice a day on the NHK, the major, broadcast station. Um, they would never show that tennis tournament if it weren't for him, So it's this kind of weird thing here sometimes. They'll be very concerned about news of a disaster or something if a Japanese person dies or is involved. If this terrible thing that happened in China, where all these factories exploded and everything that happened a few days ago, if one of the factories had been like a Toyota factory or had Japanese workers in it, it would be all you would be talking about. But no Japanese were harmed, I think, in that uh, tragedy. So it's a weird thing sometimes, and some of my students are very inward looking. They don't care about going abroad. They don't care about learning English. They don't really care. They know they're going to grow up. They're going to get married. They're going to live in Japan. They're probably never going to leave. And that's fine for them. And it's so hard if you haven't lived here to describe to people what it's like because of how homogenous it is. You're never gonna. I mean, any other Western person, you probably grew up, somewhere like, well, Canada, America, England, Australia. All these places have, a fair amount of minorities. And America now, I mean, heck, I'm going to be the minority in America in like 20 years. So, and Japan's just not like that. Japan is all Japanese people, like 97%. So it's just so hard. They just don't know about sharing their life, their culture, their space with people that aren't pure Japanese, as it were. So it's an interesting thing. But having said that, it kind of segues into my topic tonight. I'm drinking out of my Tron cup here. This is from Tron Legacy. Thank you. See who else is in here. Robert Canada had a fun time on his show, Three Old Dudes, a few weeks ago. So his show is on Saturday nights. So go over there and check that out. Ben Duncan's in the house. What's up, Ben? Oh, Kevin's telling me that the current tennis tournament that I'm talking about is a Canadian tournament. See, I never even heard of it. I think it's a runner-up kind of a tournament to get them ready for the U.S. Open. Yeah, Sean's asking me about women. I'm not really prepared to talk on that topic tonight, Sean, but yes, I am half Eskimo. It was interesting because there's a channel on YouTube called Vice, V-I-C-E, and they make videos, and they make a few about Japan. And one that they made recently featured what's his name? The guy that's going to be portrayed by Daniel Radcliffe if they make that movie, Jake Adelstein, or Jake Adelstein. I'm sorry, I don't know which, if it's Stein or Steen. And he made a comment in that video, which I just thought was very, very Well, very, very heavy. I mean, like he said that he thinks Japan is one of the most misogynistic first world countries in existence, and that the conditions for women in Japan are horrible. And it was a bold statement to make. And the report that I was watching was about these JK. JK is Josh Kosei, which is like girl high school students, so Japanese schoolgirls who are around 17 or so, and how they have all these cafes now where you can go and pay money to talk to one or get like a hand massage or other little slight things. Or what they do is it's called JK Sampo, where they just pay money to walk around that district of Tokyo with a girl. Well, of course, some of them walk around, and before they get back to where they started, they stop at a love hotel and have sex. So it's kind of like a gateway to prostitution, at least the way this report is making it out. And it's just, why is Japan so fixated on young girls specifically? Why is it so fixated on schoolgirls and AKB and all this stuff? And in there, Jake, says the statement that Japan is terribly misogynistic culture. And it took me aback. I don't know how to think about that. I need to think about it and, collect my thoughts on it and think of some examples from both sides and try to be, well informed before I make a statement about that. But I would like to touch on that in a future episode. Maybe I can get a female, maybe I can get Tomoko Des or something now that I've met her, or somebody to be on with me, and that could, offer a viewpoint that I certainly have no touch with. All right, turning on a little aircon. It's not that bad in Japan. It got really rainy in my part of Japan, so the temperature went down. My aircon was really working overtime about a week ago. This week it's not so bad. It's about 25 degrees C right here inside my apartment right now, so it's very livable, and I'm going to turn that on. Okay, so my topic for tonight, and please leave comments and stuff. As always, if you want to talk about sumo or movies or what did I see since I've seen you? I think I've seen 2 movies since I saw you, Jurassic World and Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. So we can talk about that later. It's my summer vacation, so I have lots of free time, probably more free time than I should. But Victor was mentioning in a show that he did recently that he was watching these videos by a girl who got very upset with Japan and left Japan. And I like to watch these videos too. I don't know why. I often will just kind of like click on a video and then there'll be all the ones on the side, right? That you can, that's similar interest. And I got into a whole web of videos about a week ago about homeschooling. My terrible homeschooling experience. Not homeschooling, sorry, not homeschooling. Homestay. And some of them have like 100,000 views or something. So, it kind of compels you to click. And this one girl was just so sweet. She was from Britain, and she just got this terrible family that gave her some food that she was allergic to, and then they got all angry at her for being allergic and not telling them, and she didn't know because she'd never eaten the food before. And oh my God. And what made me really angry in that story was that when she called like the people that are supposed to help her, the guy in charge of, finding the placements, he like berated her for being an ungrateful girl and blah, blah, blah. And, it broke my heart. But anyway, that turned out fine. And she was very cheerful and upbeat about it. But, it is good to sometimes do a little research and know that I think, some of these families get money to put up kids for a month or whatever they do. Some of them stay for much longer. Obviously, if you come for a year of high school, it could be like 9 months or something that you come for. Some of them might be doing it kind of for the check. I know, like when we recently had some Australian kids here, and they came to visit my campus, and we put them up for 3 days only in local families, and we just took volunteers. So the families didn't, they just had to be interested. And we actually were working through a local language school. So all the adults, mostly women, were students at the language school. So they were actively learning English and interested. And so they were happy to then host, a college-age kid. And, again, you're committing to 2 nights, 3 days, 2 nights of having someone stay at your house is a completely different thing than a month or 6 months or even, longer. So, yeah, so somebody's pointing out that if you have a big enough house, you have a couple spare rooms, you can make, some serious side money. I think all you have to do is basically provide them the bed, a place to shower and everything, and then maybe 1 meal a day, maybe something for breakfast, maybe like rice and miso soup, and then dinner. And so, it's not that bad. But anyway, but you would hope people would be enthusiastic about it, etc. And the story this one girl told in this video was terrible. So that video led me to this other girl's videos, which Victor had talked about too. So I recognized the name and I clicked. Her name is Banana Shark 72. And I'll type it over here in the comments. So, you can go later, or if you're watching this not live, you can click now and pause this video and go watch some of her videos and come back. Osashiburi Fukushima Jack. Long time no see. Osashiburi. Ohisashiburi. Did I say that right? I hope I did. Oh, Sasha's asking me, what do I do in my free time? Unfortunately, Sasha, I am being a lazy bum. And it's so hot outside, it really does reduce what I try to do. But I try now to skip. I'm gonna go to the post office on Tuesday. That gives me a reason to get in the shower and go out into the world. I'm gonna go shopping for groceries on Wednesday. I have to go see my private tutor kids on Thursday. Give myself like an hour of something to do every day so I don't go completely cabin fever insane. But I'm just watching a lot of TV and reading a lot. I've been getting some magazines from America recently and playing a lot of games on my iPad. And just being a bum, just going to bed at 5 in the morning and waking up at 10 and then going back to bed at noon, and just, it's terrible in a way. I mean, it's glorious, but it's terrible at the same time. So anyway, all right. So when you watch her videos, this girl named Banana Shark, and I want to preface this in case she's watching this, I doubt she will. She's moved on and she's doing other things now. But she comes across, if you just watch the videos very surface, especially if you don't watch to the end, where she makes statements, usually at the end, please don't take this the wrong way, etc., etc. She comes off, obviously, it's hard for me to imitate her without kind of seeming condescending, but she's kind of got almost what in America we would call a Valley Girl accent. Oh my God, they're so fugly. And, she uses these words, and she's probably 21, 22. She's fairly young, and then she's Australian. So she's got the kind of Valley Girl Australian accent. It's hard for me to imitate it. But she comes across a bit of as a bit of a snob. When you listen to especially the first video, and that's unfortunate because I don't think she's a terrible person or anything. So I just want to make that clear. I'm not attacking her. I'm kind of using her videos as an example of things that you can do either way and make Japan either a good place or a bad place to be, and maybe as a warning to people who are thinking of coming. And she even does this herself in the video and says, if you're this type of person, you might have had the same problem I did. You might think twice about coming to Japan. So, and it's hard because you can never know until you get here, and you never know what situation you're going to be in. If she had been in a different school, or if she had been in the JET program versus what she was in, things might have turned out differently. Anyway, if anybody in the comments is from Australia, which I don't see huggers in here today, please tell me. She came over on what's called a working visa, and I don't know exactly the parameters of that. I know it's from, you know, a month to 6 months, 9 months, a year. I think it's a year. It lets you work. Do you have to then still have the degree that we're always telling everybody that you have to have? It sounds like she, in a later video where she goes back and looks back at this whole thing, she got like 35,000 views on this one video, and a lot of it was negative comments. She looks back and she says that she's now in college again and she's studying Japanese, and I'll get to that later. So maybe she didn't graduate from college before she came. Maybe you just have to be a certain age to do this working holiday visa or something like that. I know my cousin from England, they often do what's in England called a gap year. So between when they finish high school, if you want to call it that in England, and they start university, they'll take a year off. And there's a working visa thing with Canada if you're from the UK. So he went to Canada for a year and worked, you know, Whistler and Vancouver and all these ski lodges and stuff, and then he traveled around America just as a tourist and stuff like that, and had a great time. But he obviously hadn't graduated from uni when he came over. He was just over 18. Sorry there. Okay. James, always with the nice comments. Gonna let that one go. Yeah, Kyoturen is mentioning the fact that, I mean, she did make a video. I should preface this. One of her videos before all these videos she made about Japan was about getting her breasts augmented in Thailand. For a very young girl, I mean, that just goes to show you that she's obviously concerned about how she looks and how she presents herself, etc., etc. So, okay, so Temiko is saying that a working holiday, you don't need a college degree. So I'm thinking she hadn't graduated from college yet. So that just, again, enforces how kind of young she is. You know, she hadn't had to, you know, bear down and study and get a degree. I don't know how difficult it is to get a degree in Australia. So, you know, it just goes to character. So anyway, so the first video that she put up was called "I Quit My Job." Okay, she put up a video a little bit before that I'm not going to really go into, where she was just kind of complaining about her life, even though she'd only been there like 2 weeks. So she hadn't been there a full month yet, and in a lot of Japanese businesses, Jet included, my university now included, they pay you once a month. So I get paid every month right now on the 10th. When I was at Jet, I think it was every month on the 15th. So you don't get every 2-week paycheck, or, you know, in quarters or whatever, 15 days. No, it's once a month you get paid. So she was running out of money, is my guess. And instead of trying to get some from her parents or whatever in Australia, she wanted them, the company, she's working at a language school in Tokyo. She wanted them to pay, she wanted to see if she could get an advance on her salary, if she could get paid a little early. So she sent an email to the Japanese staff, and they're like, okay, well, can we discuss this? Please come in to work and we'll talk about it. So this miffed her right away. She's a young person. She's used to texting and emailing and getting what she wants. I'm sorry, I'm laughing at comments I shouldn't be laughing at. Ben, you're a bad person. So right away, you know, having to go into the office, it was probably her day off or her morning off or whatever. She's like, can't they just email me? You know, come on. So, but they wanted to have a meeting, and that's very Japanese. If you want to discuss something, I mean, it's not something you necessarily learn until you come here, but Japan, if nothing else, is just a huge bureaucracy, and everything, you know, nothing is easy. Nothing is easy. You should see the hoops I have to go through every year to renew my visa, and I wish it weren't that way, but it is. So anyway, so she's talking about some of her coworkers, and she's using words like fugly and lame. And she mentions at one point that she doesn't like being told what to do. You know, I've never worked a job where like I was told what to do. Sometimes I was asked what to do. Can you do this? You know. Well, unfortunately, yeah. You know, when you're out there working, you're going to be told what to do sometimes. That's part of being a grown up and having a job. You know, at one point she's talking about one of the other coworkers, not a Japanese person, but as she calls them, the full timers. So the people that were working at the Eikaiwa that had worked there for many years, that were Westerners, probably Americans, but it could be other Australians, whatever. And she's like, oh my God, just shut up and buy a new shirt. You know, like these are some of the comments that she made. And so in that video, she comes across as very superficial and, you know, just very naive about working and stuff. She openly admits she was an asshole to the other workers. And, you know, why should she be friendly to them if they're saying things behind her back and blah, 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 and not trying to be friends with her and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's a little tough. Japan, you know, is very much a group society. You want to fit in. You want to have harmony with the group. And so to set yourself out, especially in the first month, you know, when you're there, to kind of, you know, put a distance between you and the other people, even if you're the youngest or you don't think that you'll really be these people's friends. That's like Jet. Jet, you become friends by geography in Jet. You know, oh, this person's only 10 minutes away from me. They're my new best friend. You know what I mean? But, you know, I understand. So, so anyway, so this is all kind of setting her up. You can see how she's kind of a bit of an outsider at stuff. But she's definitely, you know, young, inexperienced about what it is to be in the workplace. And I don't know what other jobs she'd had in Australia, but probably not that many because, like I said, she was so young. So, you know, she's like, I don't need this. I'm going to call my mom and, you know, I'm going to leave. You know, not just, you know, like leave today or leave, you know, take a day off or whatever, but leave the country, like break her contract or whatever she did and literally leave Japan and, you know, screw the working visa and all that. So that's a pretty bold, you know, thing to do. Some people wouldn't be able to do that. I mean, you would set up everything to come to Japan and you would have to make go of it. You would have to make the best of it. And this is why Jet has alternatives, alternates. And people get called up because people will come over here, step off the plane, and 3 weeks later they want to leave and go back to their home country. It happens. And if you're older or, you know, the job matters, like being professional matters, it's kind of surprising. But, you know, it does happen, and that's why some people are on the alternate list and they're going to get a call in like a day or two because the jets have just arrived. And culture shock can really take over for some people. At one point, she's talking about the elephant in the room. And she goes, well, I'm not elephant size, you know, everybody else is. So, I mean, you know, very image conscious and, you know, just, you know, silly little put downs like that. She does respect the Japanese staff, she says in the video, and it seems like she does as she's talking, but she has no respect for these other gaijin that are at part of the job, and she doesn't need it. She can just go home. Now, when you come over and start working in a language school, you can have a lack of support. I don't know how she found this job, if it was arranged for her from Australia or she came over and found an apartment and then went out looking for a job, and this is the job she found. But that's the good thing I will say about Jet. Jet, you get a lot of support. There's a person assigned to be your liaison. They usually speak a fair amount of English. You know, not necessarily a really good English or anything, but they try. Of course, you're going to find out about, you know, if you watch Jet videos, there'll be people that have a supervisor that speaks no English, but that's rare nowadays. And so not only do you have the support of that person, which is supposed to help you get a cell phone, get a bank account, get set up in your apartment and everything like that, but you have the other jets around. Unless you're put somewhere very remote, there's going to be other jets who you can call or you'll meet up with who can help you that have been there a year, been there 2 years, or are new like you and just going through it the same way. So in Jet, and my guess is this is the same as Interac, the other company. They have this built-in support network that you don't necessarily get if you come out and go to a language school. And you know, if the language school is somewhat small, maybe there's only 4 or 5 other teachers, and you know, if they're not particularly helpful people, or they're, as she describes in her video, as being antagonistic toward her, then yeah, that can be tough. Now, the thing is this is all predicated too on the fact that she speaks 0 Japanese at this point. Okay, she had not studied any Japanese and she did not speak any Japanese. So, you know, you're coming over to a country and, you know, you're going to try and get by and do your best and stuff, but you don't speak the language at all. You obviously can't read the signs or anything. You can't fill out forms, you know, et cetera, et cetera. You're going to need help. So the antagonistic attitude toward her coworkers was fine for her brazen attitude, but at the same time, she should have known enough to know that she needed at least one ally. You know, you need one person that you can count on, you know, to help you. If you can't navigate the language on your own. Now, on the flip side, playing devil's advocate, you know, Japanese companies, this is why some gaijin get a bad reputation, because this girl came over, you know, I don't know how long she said she would work. Probably she signed 6 months, or maybe she signed a whole year if that was her working visa. Obviously in Jet, you sign up for a year. Interac, you sign up for, I think, close to a year. And she just, you know, as you watch the video, she just basically got angry at them for rebuking her, and she quit. Like less than a month into her stay, she just said, "No, fuck it, and I'm gonna go home to Australia." And she called her parents, and they're like, "Well, you have like 7 days left on your apartment. You might as well stay for another week, because we paid for the apartment until the end of the month." I mean, I don't know how, you know, she had to pay key money and all this stuff, and then, you know, to get a flight like that, I mean, obviously, if she got it then or 7 days later, it's not going to change the price of the flight. But yeah, so I mean, this company was out, you know, I mean, I don't know what kind of training they gave her, etc. But, you know, this is why, you know, some Japanese companies, you'll if you look in Ohio Sensei, for instance, which is a big OhioSensei.com, they're a big job list site, you know, Gaijin Pot, Jobs in Japan, all these sites, and it'll say, you know, applicant must currently reside in Japan. You know, they want you to already be living in Japan. So if you do flake on them or something, you know, you're not just adrift in Japanese society or whatever. So yeah, you know, she got called into this meeting, and they basically said, "We can't pay you in advance. We're sorry, because you haven't even been here a month yet." And so she's like, "Okay." They could have just told me that in an email. And then they had this full-timer in the meeting too, and he was like, "And the reason is," and you know, he kind of started to harsh on her. "Well, you're not doing a very good job, and you're not being very professional, and we've had 2 complaints about your lessons already." And she was like, "Well, maybe I did have 2 complaints, but hey, I was just learning, I'm trying my best, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sure, you know, maybe this guy was a tool, who knows?" You know, she didn't take it very well. And that's another thing, you got to be a little tough skinned, you know, you got to roll with the punches a bit. You know, you can't just run home to mom, you know, when the going gets tough. And I think a lot of older people would know that. But she felt like, nah. And I mean, the part of it is she had no intention of becoming a teacher. You know, the whole teaching and being in an eikaiwa was just a means for her to come to Japan and basically have fun. And I think what happened is she got here, she doesn't speak Japanese, she didn't make friends right away with her fellow staff, she had no friends living in Japan that she knew beforehand. So she wasn't having fun, and for her, not having fun, fuck it, um, and that's life sometimes. You got to adjust and give yourself time to make friends and stuff like that. But anyway, so then she made a second video about 3 weeks later. It says why I left Japan, but she was still in Japan when she made the video. So why I'm leaving Japan would have been a better title. And she says she's not bashing Japan or whatever, but she would never ever live here again. She knows that now about herself. But then, like I said, she made a video like 4 months later that says she's now in university and she's studying Japanese and she does want to go back and live in Japan. So it obviously didn't have this huge traumatic effect on her. She says there's certain types of people that will have a smooth lifestyle in Japan, but it's very different culturally from the West, which is no huge surprise. You can't really, like I said, you can't really know until you get here. But she was making the point that she's very expressive. She comes from an expressive culture, the Australian culture, and I think what she'd basically mean is that you can just chat and be gregarious and get to know people, and immediately start talking to them about their deepest, darkest emotions and stuff right off the bat. And Japanese people are not like that. And if you don't speak Japanese, you cannot. The only people you can become friends with are Japanese people that can speak English. And their motive for talking to you can be many and varied. Or other foreigners. And other foreigners, like she points out in the video, some of them get very territorial or testy or whatever after they lived here a few years. And they really just don't want to have to put up with the new person who's experienced everything they've already dealt with and moved on from. And I think she just thought she would be able to come here. She actually she makes a point in the second video. Japan is like the only country in the world that doesn't speak English. I think that's her exact sentence from that video. No. There are many countries that don't speak English. But what she meant is that I guess if you go to France, if you go to Canada, that's a stupid example. But if you go to a lot of Europe, if you go to even Mexico, Brazil, probably, I don't know. I mean, I haven't been to some of these countries. There's a level of English. If you go to the Philippines, certainly, maybe in Thailand where she went to get her boob job, there was a lot of English speakers. But in Japan, there are, but they're not. They're going to be shy about it. They're not going to want to speak it readily with you, etc., etc. And I thought, I think in her mind, she thought she'd be able to come here and just immediately bond with people, and have conversations, what's it like to, live here and do this and do that and do that. And she couldn't because she doesn't speak Japanese. So, yeah, I've had so many messages from Jets who are like, I'm a very social person. And I'm so worried. You talk about being in a rural place with no other people around you for you said you had to travel for 15 or 20 minutes in a car to see another jet. I don't know how. Can I request to be put in a house with other jets and blah, blah, blah. Some people are very worried about that. She obviously got very homesick and very lonely very quickly. And that can happen to people. So you have to be prepared for that in a little. Now, of course, nowadays, I mean, I can't even. It's so much different than it was, or even before I came. Nowadays, I mean, you can do this, have a hangout, go on Skype, email, FaceTime. I mean, I don't understand. You could be so connected to people that you left in your home country, other than the time difference and stuff, that it's nowhere near what it was like, when I first came to Japan. So, yeah, I don't know why she was like that. All right, let's see here if we have any interesting comments. Yeah, Kron is saying that there's always a nomication, is that what they call it? Nomimas is to drink in Japanese. So nomication is, you go out to a bar and you have a few drinks, and all of a sudden your coworker who had never spoken a word of English is like, singing a Bono, U2 song and talking to you in perfect English because they spent a year in, New Zealand, when they were in grade school or something, and they never told you, and So yeah, try to go out drinking with your coworkers or your Japanese friends. That often loosens people up. So she's saying expressive people will have a hard time. And this is true. Like I said, I have heard, stories of jets. Sorry, I'm falling off the screen this way. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, it's just so not my experience. It's hard for me to relate to that, but I understand it. Girls who I've read their blogs or seen their videos. Oh, I was crying the whole night. My first night, I just felt so alone. And for me, it was all like, wow, this is such a great adventure, and I'm ready to go, and nervous about meeting the new people and stuff, but not at all like worrying about like, where I was, going back or whatever. Some people, they're on jet and they just can't wait for like that. If you come as a jet, you come in August, late August, early September, and they can't wait for Christmas because they are ready to go back to their home country. And they've only been here like 4 months. And I didn't go back my first Christmas. I only went back one Christmas out of 5 when I was a jet for New Year's. But yeah, some jets, they just can't wait. And if that's you, that's a strong indicator that you're probably not going to stay, a long time in Japan. So yeah, I think, she was used to being, down at the pub with her Australian mates and having, all these kind of fun conversations, and she just couldn't do it here. If she met Americans, if A, they're older, and B, they're from a different culture. America is a different culture than Australia. You're not going to have these kind of conversations. And then, with Japanese people, even if the ladies at her work were nice or whatever, if she went out with them, yeah. So, and I think she felt like some of the Japanese people were very surface with her. But that could have either been language limitations, like they know how to ask, what are your hobbies? Where are you from? They can ask these questions because we do them in school over and over and over again. But to ask, well, like, how are you feeling today? How are you doing since you moved here? They're not going to ask you those kind of questions. There's this whole, hone tatamai, this whole, like, what you present to the surface and what your inner self and which you let people see thing in Japan that, that's just never going to, especially with a new person. I mean, maybe after a year of knowing you or something. So yeah, she had no intent on being a teacher, and that's kind of that's the one thing that makes me a little angry is the jets that I met that I often didn't get along well with were the jets that came over, and we would go to a conference, for instance, a 2-day conference, so we had to stay overnight somewhere, and they just couldn't not go out that one night and get drunk. It's like, guys, seriously, you can get drunk almost any other night with people from Jet, or get together and have a party or whatever. Why do you have to do it this night when there's all these teachers and other Jet officials around the next day, and you're showing up green to the gills, or not showing up because you slept in, or coming back late if there's a curfew or something? I mean, it's just like, just follow the rules for one night, and sometimes it feels like Jet is like the 5th year of university for some people that come over. It's like the teaching part just gets in the way of their travel plans. It's like, well, I'm going to go to Hokkaido in the winter, and I'm going to go to the Okinawa here, and I'm going to go, oh yeah, and I got to do some teaching because I got to get there, earn the vacation days to be able to go here and here and here, and those kind of the people, you don't have to love teaching. You don't even have to want to do teaching later in life, but I think you should respect the job while you're here and do the best that you can for your kids, because you're their only ALT for the time that you stay. And I would have, every now and then, we would have like an ALT. I remember one year in my area, wrote an email to an incoming jet that was coming into our area, not his school, but like his town. Like there was two of them, and he was staying, and the other girl was leaving, and they were getting a new person. So he was kind of the link to that area, and he told her all these terrible things, and he just made it sound like it was the worst place to live ever. But he recontracted for a second or third year, and we're like, what the hell? If you hate it so much, why are you staying? Don't do that either. You know, if you know that you need to leave, which I at least give this girl credit for, she knew when she needed to leave to keep herself okay, or to make yourself happy or whatever. That's good. Knowing when to leave is a good thing. So she has a lot of problem in the videos with the superior gaijin mentality, which I've talked about on this channel before, which is, the badge of honor of like, I've lived here 10 years, I've lived here. And I try not to be that guy. And I hope making this video, I haven't been that guy. But, if you've lived here for 10 years, you are going to know a few things. When I take people around, or if I, am introduced to new jets, I try not to be the guy that, says, well, you got to remember to do this, this, and this, or boy, you can't say you've lived in Japan if you don't go here, here, and here, things like that. I mean, I try to not be really superior sounding or make it sound like I'm better than you because I've lived here longer, so listen to me, and I could see where that could get really annoying. But like I said, she made a mistake. She really did need an ally. At one point, she talked about going to the post office to maybe set up her bank account or something. And the whole form, of course, is in kanji, and she can't read that. I mean, you gotta take someone along with you, or take it back to the office and have someone help you or something. So, if you're in that situation at a language school, you gotta find that one person, even if it's just kind of fake, at first, even if you don't really feel like you're going to be their long-term friend, to get you over the hump of being here at the beginning. So anyway, so it was interesting to watch her videos. I really don't think that she was that, put out by it all. I think she just got some attention because, to be honest, of the way she carries herself and the way she came across, it's not her fault. I'm sure she's actually a very nice person in some respects. But you watch it, and she just comes across as kind of a whiny kid who is very entitled, to things, and things don't go her way, and so she just packs it in and leaves. Yeah, so that's my thoughts on that. Not everyone should come to Japan. Could she have known this before she came here? Maybe. Maybe if she had talked to some other people or knew more about like Eikaiwa language schools, somebody had told her, look, you got to be prepared. There's going to be a lot of bureaucracy. There's going to be a lot of meetings. You don't speak Japanese, so you're not going to understand anything that's being said sometimes. You just have to be patient and roll with that. Try to find out later. If you want to do anything, there's going to be a meeting about it. Just head down, do your job as well as you can. Try to make some friends and blah, 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 blah. But anyway, she's fine now. She's going to come back, I think, and, after she learns Japanese, and probably have a grand old time. Okay, let me answer some comments. I'm going to try and get out of here in about 10 minutes. We'll make room for Hiko. Blah, blah, blah. Yukuri kudasai. Slow down. Yeah, sometimes you have to learn some very simple Japanese when you first get over here to help you. So what's the solution? How can Jet weed out those kind of ALTs? It's tough, Kyotoren. I don't know. I mean, there is an interview process, and I've been on both sides of the table. I interviewed people, and I've been interviewed, obviously, as a Jet. And you're obviously making sure that they can speak English well, and they're self-composed, and that they're not complete, lunatics, because you can't tell everything from a paper application. But it's hard to know the way they'll react. I mean, sometimes the Jet interview is very much filled with questions about like, well, what do you think you would do if you were asked to serve tea, or to say a female applicant, or what do you think you would do if one of the students touched your breast or something, like just trying to like throw them and see what they would say and how they would react. You know, for guys, you know, it's there's different things, and you know, if you're black, you know, it's going to be different. If you're Asian American, it's going to be different. Um, you know, for me, obviously, there's no boundaries with discussing my weight. You know, there's everyone gets to this. It's an open topic. You know, so that kind of thing can be a little disconcerting at first. So you just have to see, you know, the way you, but you know, like I said, that's why they have alternates. Some people are just going to get over here and melt down, and you know, that's unfortunate. It just happens, or they get really homesick after the first few months. And I've heard alternate jets get called up as late as November or December. So obviously, if it gets to a point after that, they probably just go, okay, well, we'll do without. I mean, I had a jet. I think I've talked about her in this area where I live, and she was just not a very pleasant person. And she had a friend, luckily, her first year, but her second year she didn't, and she didn't finish her contract. She was just so unhappy that when the school year ended in March, she went home, and she didn't stay for April, May, June, and July. So that school just went without an ALT for 4 months. So they had other jets drive in and fill in or something. You know, that happens too. You know, it's unfortunate. All right. Well, the pay is going down, James W. Unfortunately, when you look at like Ohio Sensei or some of these job lists, you know, the thing is I mean, the standard is like 28 mon a month, 280,000 yen a month for say an Eikaiwa job or an ALT job. Eikaiwa, maybe you're paid by the class. I don't know how you're paid. I know when I substitute taught at an Eikaiwa school for my friend when he took his family away for a vacation, and I was there for 3 weeks. I got paid per class. So if I had a class at like 10 a.m. and then a class at noon, and then I didn't have another class until like the kids got out of school, and then I had like a 4, 5, and a 6 o'clock class. So I had 5 classes that day, but I was there like, you know, a chunk of hours. So that can be a problem in Eikaiwa. You know, if you're an ALT for jet, you're just paid a monthly salary. It's based on 35 hours of work a week. So that's 7 hours a day, 5 days a week. Yeah, the jet pay, unfortunately, you know, has always been kind of 3.6 million yen a year or 30 mon a month. Well, that used to be, you know, you would round that up with the way the exchange rate went. You'd always go, oh, that's 3.6 million yen a year. That's about $40,000. Well, now you're rounding way down because of the exchange rate. You have been for a few years now, and that 3.6 million yen now is probably about 30K. It's really changed. I mean, it's been a huge swing just in the 5 years that I've been since I moved back in 2010 to now. I mean, I think when I moved back, it was like 120 yen to the dollar. And no, I'm sorry, the other way around. It was like 85 yen to the dollar, and now it's like 125 yen to the dollar. So yeah, huge swing. But I don't think a lot of people, worry about the money so much, especially if you're young and just out of college. As long as you can, pay to live where you're living, you have some extra money to go do some stuff, and you can, pay off your school loans or whatever. You're fine. You're not thinking about, all that stuff. Yeah, I know. I missed the R in Argo on air, so it says Argo on AI. Sorry about that. But like I said, maybe with all the Coca-Cola I drink, my intelligence is artificial now. It's all corn syrup and everything floating around in my brain at this point. Hiko Simon, okay, I'm 15 minutes from home, Hiko Simon, but the next train does not come for 8 minutes, Hiko Simon. So I'm going to be a few minutes late. Is Hiko Simon telling people to leave my room? All right, let's see. Any other good comments before I get out of the way here? Maybe that was supposed to be in Twitter. Buy cat food tomorrow, James W. I do not have a cat. James, if you follow Mully, He's thinking of buying a dog. I definitely do not want a pet. Yeah, it should be Argo on Air. I'll change it. Now it says Argo on AI. I'm hoping to go to the Fukuoka Basho. Karan is talking about sumo now. But with them selling out, what's the best way to try to get tickets? Well, they obviously haven't sold out yet. The tickets for the September Basho are probably getting hard to get. And certainly some of the weekends and some of the big days are probably sold out. We have this thing in September coming up called Silver Week. And I'm trying to think when the Basho is in September. I can't see on that calendar. I don't know if Silver Week's part of the Basho or it ends the Sunday right before it, but we have 3 days off in a row. It won't affect me because I'm on summer vacation still from university. But yeah, I'd say go to Akron, PM me over on Facebook or on Twitter, and I'll PM you the link to the guy that I bought tickets from, and try to go through a broker. Unless you're in Japan, but then you have to be available on the day the tickets go on sale to like go down to your local conveni and try to buy tickets, right away or online. But then you have to be able to speak Japanese to navigate the website. So if you don't do really well with kanji, I would recommend this guy that helped me, and I think it was called Buy Sumo Tickets, but I don't want to say it and be wrong. So PM me and I'll check the link in my email and send you the real link. And he will make sure you get, he will buy you a ticket on the first day they go on sale, but you have to pay him before that day. He won't buy you a ticket and then let you pay him once he sees what he gets. You have to basically say, here's 200, here's 2 mon, here's $200. I want 2 seats, in this section, and then he'll do his best. All right, how long, James is asking, how long do you think it's going to be before there's an app like Star Trek's Universal Translator? Yeah, I mean, we obviously have, now in Google Translate, you can talk into your smartphone and things come back. The only problem I have with a lot of these electronic dictionaries is it's hard to differentiate between words. Like we had the word in my class the other day, well, not the other day, but before the semester ended, we were talking about fashion, and we were talking about the concept of matching. Does my shirt match my pants? And I don't know how to say this in Japanese. And if you look up the word match, M-A-T-C-H, in a dictionary, well, it could mean shiai, a match like a soccer match. It could be a match like you light a match. It could be, there's so many definitions of it. And so I was like, well, it's not a noun, it's more of a verb, and and you're looking through all these myriad things. And in Google Translate, if you put in a word, it'll just give you a list of Japanese definitions in Japanese. And so sometimes it's not very helpful because the top one might be, nothing to do with what you're really trying to go for. I often will just then turn the phone around and point it at the Japanese person and go, here's the list. Do any of these make sense in context of what we're talking about? So I somewhat prefer a program called Imiwa, which is an app you can get, and okay. Oh, wow. Fukushima Jack, he got box ringside seats for September. Damn, cool, man. That's awesome. Sorry, I got distracted. Which gives you the definitions, the different definitions with like English. I think it's just a superior thing to Google Translate, but Google Translate will let you do big chunks of text. So there's some advantages to that, etc. But we're getting close with Siri now and stuff. I mean, I'd say by the Olympics, actually, by the 2020 Olympics, there'll probably be some devices out that you can talk into, where is the toilet? And it'll say, toilet wa doko desu ka, back in Japanese, so you can have a Japanese person listen or something. But anyway, all right. I'm losing comments. Okay, buy cat food. Talked about the Fukuoka Basho. Yeah, Fukushima Jack, that's true. They lowered the jet starting pay for first years by a little bit. It's 3.3 million now, but then it goes up to 3.6, and then your third year it actually is more now, right? It's like 3.9 or something. So you get a slight raise if you stay 3 years. All right. Hey, Argo. I'm not Argo. I'm Jason. I'm in charge of the Argonauts. Come on, James, man. Get with the program. Yeah, that's true. I think that's a good point. Suzy Majuko. I just butchered your name, sorry. There's a difference between a person who really wants to be here and a person who thinks it might be good for them to come, or they're going to have a lot of fun and they just don't really know. But anyway. Yeah, Fukuoka Basho is not on sale yet. That won't go on sale until beginning-ish of October. So you got to wait. Definitely after the September Basho. Mr. Cordy, you forgot. What's that? Single tier. Okay. All right. All right. I'm going to get here. Oh, Lord. We're getting comments about ladyboys. Okay. New jet here. Hello, Murray. Thank you. I appreciate your comment, Murray. Have a great first year. All right, let's wrap this up. It's 10:57. We got to get over to Hiko's show. Anybody else? Yeah, Emiwa is pretty good. It definitely. I don't know if it costs money or if it's free, but it's definitely a good one to have in your phone. Cool Box, thank you for coming to the live show, buddy. All right, well, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you so much for listening. I should be back next week. I should have some interesting news next week, possibly about where I might be living in 2016. But I shouldn't jinx it, shouldn't say anything. But we'll see next week. All right, peace. I hope you guys have a good week. I know football started in America. I want to start watching, but I'm not going to pay for the NFL Game Day app until after preseason. So hopefully it will go down in price a little bit. It's a little expensive right now. It's over $200. So I want it to go down a little bit. But anyway, peace. Thank you for watching so much. Go over and watch Hiko. That's where I'm headed in a moment. And I'll see you guys again next week. All right. Bye.